Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Postgame show with the deserving Falcons, the winner 23-20. Good for them. What I can tell you is going to be different than, some of it is going to be similar to what you're used to hearing. Other things are, it's easy to just say that this is the way it's always going to be. But in my mind, you got so many errors being made on the field, so many mistakes, so many missed lineups, that it's impossible to overcome. And you've got a situation where you have a head coach insisting on calling plays who is not a particularly good play caller. You have an offense that has no ability to be explosive when they need to be explosive. And you have a defensive coordinator who every game has to have that miscommunication play. And these are all things that you know. But I guess that I kind of look at this as the way that I would see any unsuccessful business. And I mean, if you've ever... I'll tell you what an unsuccessful business is Bed Bath & Beyond. All right. Bed Bath & Beyond. I 3, 4, or 5 years ago, I said they're going to go out of business, and you watch, they're going to go out of business. This recession that we're heading into is going to, literally they'll disappear, and they should. And the reason is they carry the wrong products on the shelves. I mean, it's really weird. I mean, at first, they had national brands, and then they decided to change, and they're going to have, more of the generic, their own label brands. And the fact is, you walk into a Bed Bath & Beyond, it's filled with more shit than you could throw at somebody, and you can't get to any of it. It's all stacked up against the walls. You can't find anything. You run into other people. It's a COVID maze. And it deserves to go out of business. That's what the Browns are. The Browns deserve to go out of business. And they will keep losing as long as they're in business. And it's what I called, when I was in business, a slow bleed. The problem with being a 500 or close to 500 team is that it steadies the hand. You don't want to make too bold a move. And so you don't do anything, and you're hoping for the positive to come out. And it never does. And soon 500 seasons turn into, 3 and 14 seasons, and the coach gets fired. And then you start all over again. And you have to be able to notice it and see it in order to understand what's going on. And again, this is pointless, and this is the kind of comment that's foolishness. That's foolishness. It has nothing to do with Brissett, and there are people who said it was because of Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield isn't any fucking good. Jacoby Brissett is Jacoby Brissett. You're not going to put him in a 3rd and 23 situation when you passed up every single wide receiver in the draft and expect David Bell to go over and through 2 defenders. It was an ill-advised throw, but what is he going to do? He tried to call the plays that were being sent into his headset, and Njoku lined up in the wrong place. What are you going to do? You watch it again. He had to bring Njoku over, and Njoku was the guy who was supposed to be in the screen, on the screen pass, the receiver of the screen pass. Why was he outside? And the answer is, nobody has a fucking clue where they're supposed to line up. They're a lousy business. They deserve to go out of business. That's what it is. And to analyze this any other way the Browns will be in close games all the time, and they will lose them because when they have to move the ball in chunk yardage, they don't have it. They never took the initiative to get wide receivers. So you take Amari Cooper out of the game, which was effectively done here, and there's nobody to throw to. You had Donovan Peoples-Jones open and caught a long pass and wide open another time. The ball was just, again, led him too far. It was too late to throw the ball. Other than that, you have no downfield threat. And the second you get into a situation where the Joe Woods defense has another miscommunication, and then we won't find out who did it. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. You can have 100 customers a day come in and say, I can't find anything in this store. And they say, well, our answer to that is we're hiring fewer associates to tell you where the things are. Because if you don't know where they are, you'll stay in the store longer and you'll buy more stuff. I mean, if that's the kind of thinking that you have, and right from the top, this analytics-based thinking, and they're not looking with their eyes. They have little cash registers or whatever the fuck they have in front of them, have little computers in front of them, but they're not seeing with their eyes what's actually happening in the field. Mariota, threw the ball straight up in the air. Honest to God, that ball was thrown 30, 40 feet in the air. And I'm not exaggerating. The guy could virtually fair catch it. Nobody covered him. And it's always the same people. And Denzel Ward's in the middle of it. JJ's in the middle of it. And we never know who is supposed to cover that area. But it doesn't matter because they're never going to know. As long as that defensive coaching staff is in place, they're never going to know. So, and the fact is that it wasn't Jacoby Brissett's fault. He was disgusted when Njoku lined up in the wrong place. The first thing that happens when you need to start getting some tempo at the end of the game, without running the football, they can't do it. They can't run a quick, we're out of timeouts or we have one timeout left kind of offense. They can't do it because everything turns out that it's going to be a screen pass. Everything's going to be a little short, dinky 5-yard pass. There is nothing that can go over the middle because there are a bunch of slow, trotting tight ends, plotting. You can't say that David Bell, who caught a 20-yard pass, he did what he could. But if you look at the beginning of the last drive, the play calls, and it isn't who's on the field is contingent upon the play that's called. And there's Schwartz on the field. Why in the fuck is that asshole on the field? He's the worst player on the team, bar none. At least when they ran through us, they were running through second and third string defensive linemen. But Schwartz, he remains here because in their little computers, we drafted him in the 3rd round. We believed in him. When you're looking at things from only one perspective, there's no chance it's ever going to change. And Jacoby Brissett it's a shame. He played a great first half, and in the second half, people start doing things that don't make any sense. The play calling stops making sense. What are you supposed to do? And it puts you in the situation that he was finally in on 3rd and 23. So you say, okay, he should have thrown the ball away, and then maybe he could have completed a 10 or 11 yard pass, and then we try a 63-yard field goal, which the head coach disdained the last time we had the ball. Because he doesn't believe the defense is going to stop anybody. And sure enough, that's when the broken coverage takes place every time in the 4th quarter when the game's on the line. And it always will, because they're Bed Bath & Beyond. They're beyond all rational thought. I think it's a good thing, because as long as these people are here, I don't want them to be fooled into thinking that they're pulling the right strings and making the right decisions. I want them to continue losing. And the reason I want them to continue losing is because they're making the wrong decisions. They're making a bad situation in which they the front office refused to draft any wide receiver help. I mean, it's crazy. You go out, you create more tumult than you can imagine to acquire a quarterback who's not going to play for all practical purposes and intents for the entire season, and probably wouldn't be ready to play after the 11th game anyway. And you knew you were going to do it, and you drafted nobody. It's unreal. So the decisions that you make, you reap what you sow. And this is what you get. A lot of close games that come down to the wire. And the reason that, the famous brigade of fans, only the Browns could, is because they're always in close games. And the reason they're always in close games is because they don't take the bull by the balls and do what they have to do. They don't go for the jugular. And that's Stefanski, who's a coward. He's just a little mouse of a man. He's so tied up in his internal thought process that he can't see out of the box that he's in, and he won't let anybody outside the box expand his vision. And as long as that's the case, this is what you're going to get. It's, and in the end, you can talk about statistics, that's not what decides the game. What decides the game is when you get an interception from Denzel Ward, but you can't, you can't put it in the end zone because you end up fiddle-faddling. On a 3rd and 1 at the goal line, you decide to pass the ball to be tricky. You start running jet sweeps to tight ends, and you do all kinds of weird shit. And you cannot take a sack like Brissett got sacked and overcome it, because this offense isn't schemed that way. You can say, well, we got the ball with 2 minutes and 20 seconds left of the game, and we had all of our timeouts, and, this was, or we had one timeout, and, we have a chance to win the game. But how? How are you going to move that many yards? How are you going to do it? And the answer is you never will. Not with this mindset. Not with this group of players. And it's like I said from the beginning of the season, once they figure out how to take Amari Cooper out of the game, there's nothing in the passing game left except the courage of Jacoby Brissett and tight ends and running backs. That's it. The answer to your question about Harrison Bryant is the pattern he runs is consistently 1 to 2 yards short of where he needs to be. And he's a bust, and I wouldn't waste time with him. Because if there's no awareness of where you are on the field, you're not going to get the first down. That's just not going to happen. It's... And again, this is the funny thing. The Browns fans take solace. The Steelers stink. Everybody knows the Steelers stink. So what's the joy in watching Pittsburgh lose? They benched Trubisky and they played Pickett, and what? They don't have a good team. We have a better team than we have coaches. And I would be the first to say that defensively, I don't know why Atlanta wasn't attacking our defensive front more aggressively in the first half of the football game. When they put, the practice squad running back out on the field, everything started picking up tempo-wise. And that's the thing. The Browns are a tempo team, but we never got the tempo. Stefanski kept trying to rush the ball to the line of scrimmage, and the no huddle never worked because we weren't even set on the plays. And of course, Bitonio's going to go downfield too far because the play wasn't set up in the first place. All of those plays that are little dinky screen passes or whatever, the linemen time it out. And when the timing gets mucked up, they drift downfield, and that's how you get the penalty. That's what it is. They don't know where to line up. They don't know what to do. They've had plenty of time to learn it. They don't understand where to line up on the offensive side of the ball, and the defenders don't know who to cover. That's what it is. Again, I'm happy that Kevin Stefanski loses these games. And every week that goes by that he refuses to acknowledge that he is the only responsible person on the offensive side of the ball, just like Joe Woods is the only responsible person who's on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, you have a hierarchy in management for a reason. When I, owned radio stations, I ran the sales staff. I was an owner, but I was a manager. If our sales were down, I wasn't going to call some sales manager and say, what the fuck's the matter with you? If the sales were down, it's my fucking problem. Coming away with a loss is disappointing and frustrating. You have to learn from it. No, you have to learn from it. And you won't learn from it because you never will, because you only know one way, and it's a bad way. You're a lousy coach because you're stubborn. You have the ability to put together, assemble a playbook, but you can't pick the plays for shit when you need them. And I think that it's just obvious. No, there are no bad referee calls. Come on, Mark. They beat us fair and square. They're a better team than we are. They are better. And it will be proven with time that they're better. And the reason they're better is because in this game, when they had to get stout, they put a pass rush on and pressured. Brissett got the sack. And Stefanski obliged by calling again confusing play calls that players, that don't make sense. We should have been in a situation where we had 14 more points on the board, seriously, than what we had. That whole first drive of the game ended up being a waste because of his stupidity. I don't know. I mean, I look back at the first quarter and I say, oh my God, you're at the line of scrimmage on fourth down, and you rush to the line on third down, you rush to the line and you give the ball to Chubb, and your linemen weren't even out on the right edge where they were supposed to be. There was no sync, no timing between the offensive line. Chubb couldn't cut it back, and he couldn't go around the end. And that was because there wasn't enough time for them to think what they were supposed to do. Whatever happened to just taking your fucking time? Why do you think you have to trick people when you have all-pro linemen out there and you have the best running back in the game? Why do you have to out-trick somebody? It's just a weakness. It's a frailty of character. That's what it is. Should have had 14 more points on the board, and it shouldn't have been a problem. All of these losses, and most of the losses for the early going will be this way. After that, it will be the we quit. And we will see the we quit. Long before Deshaun Watson rides in on his horse, you're going to see the quit from the Cleveland Browns. LeBron James knows what the quit is. Just going to stop trying. We've seen it over and over again. And again, I will periodically reference what people are saying. This is the yin and the yang of football. Quit hiring offensive coordinators as head coaches, and that's wrong. All right? Incorrect. The reason it's incorrect is because it's not even part and parcel of what we're talking about. An offensive coordinator can be hired by a defensive-minded head coach, or an offensive-minded head coach can hire a proper defensive coordinator and can delegate certain responsibilities. You want to go back to Romeo Crennel, Forrest Gregg. Do you want me to name them for you? The guys who were the defensive head coaches that we failed miserably with. The problem is you have to have balance on your coaching staff like you have balance on your football team. We have no balance in team personnel because we have no wideouts with any speed and the ability to break big plays. So right off the bat, we just have to trudge it out. And these games, we play them close intentionally. Kick them deep, and hope the defense comes through. And then a broken play. And they get the ball right down the field. Kick the field goal and win. Then you have the ball and you can't move it because you don't have any speed and breakaway factor in your offense. The problem isn't hiring an offensive-minded coach. I mean, the people in Jacksonville, they actually were playing the Eagles very competitively here. Doug Peterson is an offensive-minded head coach. He's done a lot better than Urban Meyer, who really was only good at getting lap dances from what I could see. And he was a piece of shit at Ohio State, too. He's a lousy person. Go to Bronk here. Hi, Bronk. How you doing?
I'm going to go to bed.
Yeah.
I was falling asleep during this game, and I'm tired. And it's just, what we all said on Friday should have happened, or what I said, that we pound them in the fourth quarter with our running game. But it turned out that Atlanta pounded us and ripped right through our front line as if nobody was there. And we got Maniacta's defensive line out there this week.
They obviously
they tried their best.
If you're waiting for Tommy Togiai and that group of players to ever develop, we have no depth at that position either.
We suck.
No, and that Clowney's injured for half a season every year. Yep. You know that Myles Garrett is now he flips cars, but he has to come out plays because he's winded.
Well, he would have gotten hurt some other way too, probably if it wasn't flipping the car over, he would have
And we refused to get veteran guys like Ogunjobi back. Yeah, people who we knew were
Sheldon
established,
Richardson even.
Yeah, established NFL defensive linemen, and instead we went with people that weren't good enough to make the cut, and just said, "Well, we're going to develop them," and because we have this great running scheme defensively, and we don't obviously.
There's people going on about the Steelers losing to the Jets, and
nobody
they
cares
beat
about
us. That. And there's people going on about the Bills beating the Ravens, and we're all 2-2, and blah 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 blah. The Chargers, if we play a healthy Justin Herbert, we're gonna get lit up like a Christmas tree.
It doesn't
matter. It doesn't matter anymore.
The season's finished.
Killed.
The season's. Yeah. Never thought that the Browns, based upon what happened with the Deshaun Watson situation, were going to be competitive this year. They're going to be an under 500 team. And I said to everybody, 7-10 or 8-9, and so it will come to pass.
Well,
and
yeah,
it's just frustrating. But they're never going to get over the top when you have such gaping deficiencies. It's, the comment from DG, there's always a condition when these coaches agree to work for the Browns. And, this is the way it is in the NFL. It's not just that way in Cleveland, that, when you're a bottom of the barrel team like the Browns or the Jaguars or whatever, you got to beg people to come coach you because they know that it's one of the two things. It's either a guy like Doug Peterson who got fired, who wants to keep his hand in because he's getting older, or it's a young, unknown commodity, a Rob Chudzinski or whatever,
Yep.
and somebody who has no experience being in NFL, anything, getting all of a sudden, the opportunity to, or a Mike Patton. You're going to get somebody like that. And they might hope that lightning would strike in a bottle, and that's going to propel them to some great Hall of Fame career. The truth of the matter is, you don't get your pick of head coaches. You end up with the Kevin Stefanskis. These are the people you end up with. And the problem is, it isn't the conditions that's done all over the league. The concession is that the game goes on, and win or lose, Jimmy Haslam and his family will live in splendor, and every one of you listening to this program will be frustrated. It doesn't matter. They're going to make as much money winning or losing. If they're still, can you believe after going 1-31 and they remain open for business? Nothing's going to chase the fans away. Nothing. There's no pressure on them. They don't have the pressure that Bed Bath & Beyond has on them. And you wait. You wait within the next 2 years, they'll be gone. Just like Circuit City. I called them too. It's like the wrong things on the shelves. How in the hell can you be in a retail business and not know what you're supposed to have on the shelf? It's like, I went into the Circuit City and they didn't have it, so I went to the Best Buy and they did. Who's open and who's closed?
Oh, Best Buy will go next too.
Because of online shopping,
yeah.
But not because of their own total ineptitude.
We need the Peter Ellis play the game, and then I'll just go.
I'm not in the mood for that.
I'm not in the mood for.
Maybe tomorrow. It's the blown coverage, and it's. What is it? It's a straw that breaks the camel's back. It's like you're sitting there watching, what in the fuck could happen next? And there it is. Woot, there it is. Another just mindless, brainless. You got the head coach and his brainless play calling, the defensive coordinator and his brainless communication skills, and the players who are brainless. And you have an obvious deficiency at the wide receiver position and no depth on your defensive line. Next.
Yeah.
Because nobody, it's like Cordero Patterson was going to run all over us. No, it wasn't. It was some kid from Ball State who'd never played before.
It was like watching Armand Smith out there again.
Yeah. They just blocked our guys right out of the way. And what it took was energy and effort by the Falcons offensive line. And that's the thing that we can't conjure. And the thing that's so funny is after the week before where we win a game barely and Stefanski's giving the rah-rah speech, and it's like, now that's the way you do it, guys. That's the way you do it. You seize the moment. And he has no clue. He wouldn't know how to seize my dick if I unzip myself. Well, that guy's got no fucking balls.
We are absolutely terrible after a win. Every time we get a win, we have the victory Monday or the victory Friday or whatever. Then we come out the following week and lay a gigantic goose-sized turtle on the football field. It's just amazing because, they get overconfident. They probably thought, it's the Falcons. We won last week. We can still win here and not put in 100% effort. And it's not the case.
What it is that the players in the locker room after the win last week are looking at the coach like, yeah, rah-rah. We'll go ahead and play along with you, buddy. But there isn't the enthusiasm that you see with the Guardians or with last year's Cavaliers. There isn't that feeling of we're working together for a common goal. There isn't any of that. It's kind of like, all right, if you want us to go hoo-ah, hoo-ah. If you want that, we'll do that for you a couple times like barking seals. But nobody's bought into this. What's there to buy into? Yeah. Brissett knows he's got receivers who can't get separation. And he if he tries to throw it down the field, he will get picked off. It'll be the same as Baker Mayfield. because there just isn't a step. There isn't a window to fit the ball in.
Yeah,
You just don't have any depth at the wide receiver position.
Yeah.
So, and as far as what our alleged strengths are, I don't know. You say the running game is a strength, but once you're taken out of that by making mental errors and mistakes and, having penalties called, and you take a look at the play in which it was bad enough that they left a guy wide open again.
Yeah.
But nobody in the chat rooms even mentioned the fact that Newsom trying to tackle him, or Ward, it was one of the two of them. Are you fucking kidding me? The guy carried him for 15 yards?
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's a lack of effort. You know what the only effort play I really noticed was the part of the Cleveland defense, but Denzel Ward's interception and Jacob Phillips preventing the guy from getting the corner to get the first down. That was essential to at least force him to kick a field goal.
Yeah, after the 3 timeouts, which
no effort plays. No effort plays whatsoever. And watching the breakdown in coverage, then it's the breakdown in tackling. Then the Ball State guy, fucking Mid-American Conference guy, runs through us like we're literally like he's a hot knife through butter, and we can't bring him down. We can't tackle. And that's just a lack of effort. And then you see the flip side. It's like, the Falcons were all hyped up, man. Oh, we can run. We can run against anybody. Look at, and then in the first half, man, they got, they had one good drive, and then they got stonewalled. And when it came down to, Mariota having to carry the load, he can't, of course. We know that. And so somebody gave them a talking to at halftime and said, you got to pick up your energy and you got to work harder.
Yeah, after that Mariota interception, they just ran the ball the whole time.
Yeah, and they knew, and that's the thing that really bothers me. Hi, Jim, how you doing? The thing that really bothers me is that they knew that all they had to do was hand the ball off. That's all they did. That's all they did. That's all they did. That's all they did. And they get into the end zone. We, on the other hand, we run the ball, we get yardage, run the ball, get yardage. Then we try a jet sweep with Njoku. Or then we decide to go play action and, we have to throw the ball out of the end zone because nobody's there. Or we line up in the wrong place, or any of the other things that happen to us. That's effort. The players are not putting out. I can tell you that with 100% certainty now, and it's because of what I'm explaining to you. They don't believe in the head coach. They don't believe in what is happening on the field, and the quit has started. And the next 6 weeks, we're going to lose 5 games. I'm telling you that right now. They're going to lay down. They're going to lay down like Frank fucking Bruno. That's what they're going to do.
Oh, leave Frank out of this. They're
going to lay down because I've seen it before. When, the only thing, let's be honest about this. The only reason a grown man would play a game that's going to shorten his lifespan by over 20 years is for the thrill of victory. The second reason is the money, of course, that you can earn. But the thrill of victory, going for the championship and all that kind of thing, that's the exciting part of it, right? For me, that's what keeps athletes going. But that's not present in this organization. Doesn't have a history of it, a recent history of it, and it never will if the players stop trying. So this is a perfect way of saying the Falcons were a team who, when they got ramped up and got energy and started trying harder, they got results. That's what it comes down to. The Browns think they can turn it on and turn it off. And the Falcons aren't going to win many games either because they did the same thing. They had to turn it on, and by then you're going to be blown out by any good NFL team. And that's why the Browns are are going to lose because they're going to start feeling sorry for themselves. And it's what happens all the time. The athletes then will want to play someplace else, and then there'll be disenchantment, and then they'll start taking little pieces of things away from Stefanski, and they'll take the defensive coordinator friend of his and put in a sterner defensive coordinator, and think of your past of Cleveland Browns history, where they put in a crazy Ryan brother, or they put in the crazy bounty hunter guy, Greg Williams, and who won't see eye to eye with any head coach. And so then you have friction, and that completes the cycle, and then Stefanski gets fired. There you have it. And it shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody, because this is what has happened.
When you said the next 6 games, they could lose more than that.
That's right. And I'm telling you, though.
You got Chargers, Patriots, Ravens, Bengals, Dolphins, Bills, and Bucks. Those are all
losable games.
Very losable.
They're going to lose, and finally, all but one of them.
December. That brings us into December with Texans, Bengals, Ravens, Saints, Commanders, and Steelers.
And the only thing that we're going to be waiting for is Deshaun Watson to hit the field.
Yeah. I mean, I realize they've said that the idea is that this team is built for next year, but that doesn't make it any easier for the players that are there, or to bring in other players when you see that type of disorganization. I mean, on the other hand, the Ravens lost to the Bills, but they only lost by 3, which actually you would consider to be a quote good loss, when you lose to a good team. But it's just, the killer was that same play again, where there's somebody wide open between levels in the secondary when you got to stop it. How can this happen? I didn't get right on because I really had to medicate a little bit before I got on. It was not good. There was definitely some liquor.
You know something? I remember when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson.
He did.
And do you know why he beat Mike Tyson?
Actually, so does Bronk, don't you, Bronk?
Yeah.
Nobody talks about the two converging things. For Mike Tyson, it was they put all the new Don King mob-related the trainers in his corner who no longer were training him properly, and so he became way too stiff and straight up, and he was more hittable. Instead of bobbing and weaving and getting low, like Customato taught him, he started fighting in a way that made him more vulnerable. And of course, then they purposely would introduce people like Robin Givens into his life, and they would do whatever they could to fuck his head up.
Wow.
And he was he was a cash cow, right? That's what was happening on his side. On the other side, Buster Douglas is a guy who is the classic underachiever who couldn't even keep his weight down, couldn't even get in shape for fights. And for this one, because his mother died, he pledged on his mother's dead body that he would win the fight. And he took the fight seriously for the first time in his life, and he trained, and he got knocked down by Tyson, but instead of laying there, he got back up and knocked Tyson out. By the time it comes to defend his title, the fat, lazy dog bum of a fighter returns because he was never motivated. It took his mother's death, and your mother's death isn't what motivates you. It's what makes you sad, maybe. But if that's what you have to draw on for inspiration to do your fucking job, you got a problem. The players on the Cleveland Browns all have a problem. They lack pride, professionalism. Myles Garrett is a waste of time. Because if during the season, in what you say out of your mouth, Myles Garrett, is, I want to be the defensive player of the year, but I'm going to go out and hydroplane my car, drive irresponsibly, take myself out. You're not serious. These people aren't serious. Just take my word for it. I've been around people in business who were not serious. I managed radio stations for owners who were not serious. You're either in it to win it, or you're in it for some other reason, but it ain't going to result in a positive result. That's the fact. And it could be a long season. It is a long season already, Mark. It's already a long season, because what we see is even the Falcons can ramp it up on us, and we just idly sit by and take it. Team has no pride whatsoever.
These two losses are to teams that good teams beat.
Correct.
Yeah,
they're right. Good teams beat these teams.
Yeah,
it's very simple. It's just.
Gosh.
Oh,
you know how long ago the Buster Douglas Tyson fight was? That was back in 1990.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Don't we feel?
What time did I call you in the middle of the night?
Yeah. That was in Tokyo or something. Yeah,
it was in Tokyo. Yeah, and
Buster Douglas is the pride of Columbus, Ohio. Is he still there?
Yes, he is. Actually, I saw him at a. I've seen him a couple times at local MMA shows, and I actually saw him at.
How's his weight?
Ohio State basketball game.
How's his weight?
He's up there with me.
I mean, the fact is, he was up over 400.
He's not horrible, but he's definitely heavy.
He reached 400 plus pounds, and he was so severely diabetic he went into a coma. That was years ago.
He's up over 3 bills probably, or pushing it. He doesn't look great, but he doesn't look horrible. He might be about maybe 290 or something. I mean, he didn't look, fantastic, but he's definitely still big.
Now, Landboy makes this is what you call a stretch, if there ever was one. Can somebody explain to me how this is not scripted if CBS predicted the final score? Anyone could have predicted at the end of the game how it was going to go. This is not the only script is in the head of the coaches and the players. You either believe you're going to win or you believe you're going to lose. The players believe they're going to lose. And I'll say this. Now, the Guardians don't have the talent to compete with the Yankees and the Astros and God knows what else.
Yeah.
But how many close games have you seen them pull out because they believe they could?
Yep.
And belief and putting all of your effort in is, and it's for 9 innings. It's not for 1 or 2 innings. You have to do it game in, game out. Players don't want to do that. They want to have their fast cars, their Porsches. They want to go 65 or 70 in a 45 zone. They want to flip their cars. They want to be defensive player of the year. They want to get laid with really good looking women. They want to go out and have a good time on the town. They want to have an entourage, whatever the fuck it is they want. But that's not about winning. That's not about business. That's the problem.
It all seems rather fun, though, isn't it?
Well, that's what it amounts to. A bunch of guys coming out of college. You're damn straight.
Yeah.
Well, they've had even speaking of the Guardians, they've had that same kind of last-minute heroics going back to that, that the team in '95. I mean, they're doing the same kind of stuff, but they don't have the depth that team has. But they're doing it with all these puppies.
Well, the thing that's interesting is it's not one guy. I mean, It would be easy to have started the season saying, okay, Jose Ramirez, it's all up to you. and been done with it. You signed your long-term deal but it's Quan hustling, getting on base. It's Rosario hitting the opposite field to get him to third base. It's Ramirez just being Ramirez. It's Naylor getting big hits in times where he goes the other way or pulls the ball or hits home runs that he goes large to try to sometimes sock the ball out of the park. But and then Oscar Gonzalez, you see all these guys hitting against the shift.
And
it's remarkable.
Straw's hitting over 300 for September, who hasn't hit all year long.
Well, that's because they're giving him the entire left side. He's just going to hit it there. And again, this is the same thing as, it's the conditions that the coaches are hired on. That's the way business is done. Just like saying, well, hitting home runs and scoring a lot of runs, that's the way it's done. But That isn't the only way. But in order to do what the Guardians are doing, you have to preach the ultimate next man up. It means you're not going to be a hero. You're going to be a cog in a machine. And your job is to move the guy from second to third. Your job is to move the guy from first to second, or if he steals second, to try to drive him home. And if you can't, hit it to the right side of the infield to get him to third so we can hit a sack fly to get a run in. It's like watching ants. There's no great, it's like glory in being a singular ant. But boy, they could become a real pest when there's enough of them. And that's what the Guardians have done. And the Browns are just the absolute antithesis of that.
Yeah.
And there's just no worker bees. There's nobody who is just saying, where is the secondary? Where are these players that everyone was pimping? Newsome, Ward had an interception day, but he also was part of that blown coverage. Delpit. Where are these people? It's not like Seinfeld. Where are these people? Go ahead.
Delpit had a couple of breakups in the first half. I even put something in the chat about that. I was like, oh my God, Delpit's actually made it through the entire half of football.
Yeah, without getting hurt
off the field. But he actually had some good plays. And they did really, really good until those last second. And I think part of that had to do with depth. Obviously, D-line depth. They didn't have anything today. They're missing their two studs, regardless of how often they play or how often.
But they were healthy in the defensive secondary.
Yeah, for one
There's
of the
no
first
excuse
times across the board.
The blown coverage, there's no excuse for that.
3 out of 4 weeks.
They had all their offensive linemen. They had, how they give up a sack on the one play that they need Brissett on his feet that ended up making it a 3rd and 23.
Yeah.
That's not. And then people say, "Oh, we got to let Dobbs play." Like you're going to put Dobbs at a 3rd and 23? But
yeah.
Well, it's not going to work for anybody.
Aaron Rodgers isn't making 3rd and 23 at the end of the game. It's just not happening.
You want to know how bad it is, Ron?
How bad is it, Ron?
Bell looks good. Bell looks good because he caught 2 passes. Bell looks good.
Yeah.
I mean, no. It's that,
he held on to the ball.
Yeah.
Unlike some other people.
But I'm saying he's not ready for prime time.
No.
He was injured throughout the mini camps that we had, and he's doing the best he can on the fly. But
see, I'm old, right? But I'm still a bit naive. I was thinking that once Baker was gone from the team, that maybe the mood of the team as a group would actually improve. It hasn't. It's just as bad. It's just as bad with Baker. It's just as bad without Baker.
I'll tell you something, because I already talked about this in a show a long time ago regarding Baker Mayfield. I was a 27-year-old general manager of radio stations, and I would see owners doing things that were incomprehensible, and I would call them out for it, and I get fired. Okay.
Yeah.
And Baker Mayfield and I were both at 26, 27 years of age. We're very immature adults. But I'll tell you this, what I used to say when I was a young man, and I still say today, is I'm not here to lose.
Yeah.
Right? Now, sometimes we do. I mean, and it's like everything. It was my work, yes, but also the recreational sports that I played. It's like I'm not here to lay down. I'm here to give my best effort. If the best effort results in a victory, that's even sweeter. If my best effort means that I fought till the end, tooth and nail, then I take that home with pride, because but when there isn't any of that feeling and you're just lugging your body out and you don't even believe in the system that you're running, and if you're Amari Cooper, you're probably sitting in the locker room saying, if they'd have just gotten me one other wide receiver who could get open, now what I'm going to look forward to here is 13 more fucking games, And, I'm going to become OBJ.
Correct.
I'm going to become invisible because there's nothing beside me. And they line up in the wrong places. They're idiots. They drop passes like Schwartz. They're mouseketeers. So that's what it is. You're either in it to win it, you're in it for glamour, and I know a lot of people who want to drive fancy cars and they want to be, recognized to the community as, and I didn't give a fuck about that. And I don't think players should be talking about, I'm going to be Defensive Player of the Year. Get off your ass and do it. Get off your ass and do it. Don't talk about it. Do it. When you're done doing it, then you can strut if you want to. Because you did it. You walked the walk. But I don't want to hear about that shit now. The fact of the matter is we have talent on the team in certain places and it's squandered. I mean, honestly, you don't think, and by the way, I do have a question. Ford was returning kicks until the last kickoff, and then I noticed Ernest Johnson was back there.
Right.
Something happened to Ford?
Haven't seen anything, but we'll see if we can find something for you.
Yeah, that was something that just jumped into my head. But, I don't know what else to tell you, except it's obvious that the team isn't bought into anything. And as long as that's the case, that's what you're going to end up with. And I've decided, why get angry? Once I saw the meltdown of the loss to the Jets and the blown coverages and the lack of going after footballs and all of that, and I know Amari Cooper will quit. He'll quit like a dog because he did on the onside kick. Once a player shows me that he's got dog in him, that's all I need to see.
Woof.
So, there's, and I can talk about this tomorrow, and there's no analytical thing involved here. It's just what you bring to the table. And, I got to be honest with you. It is difficult to give 100% of what you have when the people around you are not. Ask Joe Thomas. When there's no direction in the organization, ask Joe Thomas. When the thing is that your pride is being the best player you can be, and then you just want to go back to Wisconsin and go hunting for the offseason. That would be Joe Thomas. But you have this constant cavalcade of of players coming in and going out who just don't care. And there's lots of them who are playing professional sports who don't play up to their capabilities and capacities. And it's because they're not sold. They're not sold by the people above. Now, what would Jimmy Haslam sell you on? Jimmy Haslam can't sell dick. Jimmy Haslam has to rob people to make money. Now, maybe his father was capable of doing something, but Jimmy Haslam's nothing but a silver spoon child. He's just hanging around with the rest of the owners. When he was a minority shareholder in the Steelers, he was getting to know people. He was being a big man on campus by donating the money of his father's business to the University of Tennessee. But what is he to look up to? Nothing. To be a good leader, you have to make the people around you better. You have to have a message, and you've got to sell that message to people, and it has to be truth. You can't say, on the one hand, way to go, way to go, way to go after a win when the team clearly still made mistakes and barely pulled the fat out of the fire. You have to be honest with people. You got to say, we need this effort for the first minute to the last minute. And I don't mean just in the games. I mean in practice and in everything. You got to be focused and learning on where you're supposed to be lined up. And here's why. And you have to sell the package to them. Everything is selling. Everything. And we don't have anybody who can sell anything. Kevin Stefanski, he's got no imagination for that. He doesn't have the ability. He doesn't have a warmth or magnetic personality. How do you think Sam Rutigliano did it? How did he get all those players to buy in? How did he get Reggie Rucker, who had been all over hell and back and was known to have an attitude? How did he get him, how did he get Dave Logan to keep taking hits over the middle and just continue to drive at it? And Ozzie Newsome to be able to just keep at it and grinding, and little Brian Sipe taking hits and punishment, but, coming through in the end because there was a message. And I know that message because I've talked to Sam about it. And he understands the way an organization is supposed to work. Browns don't have not the slightest notion. It's just an unfortunate thing. And the players are sheep. Everybody needs leadership. The country needs leadership. Our states need leadership. Our parents need to serve as role models and leadership for our children. Everybody needs to have some kind of leader impart the right message to them to get them going in the right direction. And then personal pride and effort will take over.
Wow, this is sounding like a Jerry Springer homily. You've morphed into your campaign speech. Moohead for president.
Yeah, I mean, and you're wrong about this, Jim. You're wrong about it.
I did get the update on Jerome Ford. He was injured after the second kickoff return that he had.
All right. What's wrong?
And then
did they say
ankle injury? That's why Dearness Johnson went in.
Do we know what was injured?
Ankle.
All right, there you go. He won't be back for a little while.
Listed as questionable for the rest of the game at that point in time. So I guess.
Well, if he twisted an ankle, he's going to be gone for next game too. That just takes time.
Well, I think
nothing.
a lot of what you just even said kind of flows over into other parts of sports. And this is off Brown's topic, but it's a sports related topic, is that I ref volleyball collegiately, high school on down. And we actually had we don't normally have ejections in volleyball, but we actually had the second ejection of a coach this year in volleyball. And I happened to be involved in it. And it was my match in a JV match. The score tied 3-3 in the third set. Now, no one's ride to Nebraska or Texas or Minnesota is going to be affected by how well they perform in the JV match in the middle of, the end of September. And some coach didn't see the play the way that we did, a varsity assistant coach, and jumps off the bench just screaming. I got to give her credit that at least she cared about what was going on, which is what you're talking about. This is why I'm bringing it in. She cared about what was going on. However, the way that she went about it was completely wrong, and she was sanctioned appropriately and sanctioned again when she wouldn't stop, and then asked to be ejected, and we obliged her. So it was what it was. But, but that's systemic throughout. When you're talking about parents taking care of their children, this is now systemic throughout sports. And this whole situation of people being unreasonable, it's been crazy. It's gone off the rails. There's been fights. There's been threats. There's been, Ohio high school soccer officials petitioned to make sure that they have an escort from the field because people are so crazy. So,
I got a question about that. Whatever happened to that high school football team that barricaded those referees in the thing?
That was
with the candy machines, and they didn't let them out last year.
At Grove City, they didn't like it.
Yeah.
It was
Grove City.
Yeah, it was a mixed. It was a mixed. It was a what I would say an ethnically diverse football crew.
Okay.
But it shouldn't have made any difference because both schools are like
diverse,
Trumplican parts of town.
Yeah.
and I don't know, but there was some fallout from it from when they found out who did it. But I
Well,
mean,
we got to get back on the game, guys,
yeah,
because
I mean, but that's the
people
thing.
are leaving here like the water filling up the Titanic.
Yeah, but where I'm kind of going with this is just the fact that, like you said, they don't. It seems like at times they don't care that they're losing, and we want people that physically bothers them, that loss. It bothers us as fans. We buy into it. It's very difficult.
Well, I'm seeing fuck the Steelers and Ravens. That has nothing to do with anything. The Steelers and the Ravens have nothing to do with how hard we try. The management of the team does. And yes, the players are capable of doing better. But the fact of the matter is that they've not been sold, or they have not bought into whatever the plan is, because the plan what they do is they walk away from a game like this feeling that it was eminently winnable, wondering why in the hell play calls are being called, why in the hell we're running jet, reverses to a tight end, why we're, running plays where the offensive players are not lining up in the right place. They see the leaks in the dike, and, they can't put their fingers in all the holes, and and the few bad apples who keep making the mistakes in the secondary, they're the ones who win in the end. Not the fans, not the team, not the other players. It's the losers who win. Take my word for it. Whoever is responsible for making these errors, I fire the defensive coordinator because he's not communicating properly with the players. But if instead of you just going, on the record of saying, well, we're not going to talk about that, but we talk about that internally. If you know that there is a common denominator, get him the fuck off the team, because he's a cancer. He's going to, you have to fill your roster with players who try hard, who are mentally intact and trying to win. That's it. And to me, it has nothing to do with saying, we can bring in this guy, or let's bring in a defensive-minded head coach. The guy who's the head coach, if you ask Stefanski, what's the most important thing that you do, he would say, the offense, and I call the plays. And he's wrong. Right out of the chute, he's wrong. He doesn't inspire anybody. You know how much inspiration is lacking in this world? Do you think the majority of people go to work in America and go, oh, I can't wait to get to my job? Do you think people laugh and smile at work? You believe that?
Wow.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, I believe there's a time to put your foot down, but loose and free environment in work and letting people have some fun. And I mean, you give people a reason to be enthused about what they're doing professionally. Let's get Derek in here. Derek, God.
He's still alive.
Hey, first things first, can you hear me fine? I'm on my phone.
Yes, I hear you.
Okay. Second thing, I think the Browns need to stop giving the fans every reason in the world to kill themselves, because this is now the fourth game of the season, right?
Yeah.
You could have very easily blown week 1 against the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
Very easily could have blown that game. Week 2, you did blow it. I almost jumped off the damn top of the stadium. Week 3, the Steelers, that you got the win, great, but they could have easily came back. I mean, it was close to the end. And here we are, week 4 now. Another game you should have won, and because your defensive coordinator doesn't know how to adjust to stop the run and wants to continue to let a practice squad 4th-string running back just go 10 for 10 all the way down the field and score, and your head coach is calling plays terribly all game long, but especially in the red zone. I mean, how you cannot get in the end zone when it was like 1 yard to go and you have the best sneak quarterback in the NFL. I mean, just
elementary, rudimentary things.
It's unbelievable.
And we're seeing now that Brian Hoyer over at New England is being evaluated for a head injury.
Oh, he got slammed down.
Yeah, so you can see that when it bites you at one position, it just keeps biting you over and over again. But you can make excuses about injuries. Everybody has injuries. It's the mental part of the game where teams aren't prepared, where we can't get tempo, we can't get rolling, and that the play calling is destroying the flow of the team. If I know how precious 7 points are in a football game, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that if I'm at the 1 yard line or the 1.5 yard line, I'm not going to rush to the line of scrimmage to say, I'm going to see if I can catch their guys off guard. And they end up catching their own guys off guard because they weren't prepared to run the play. And they were rushing to the line of scrimmage. Where is composure? That is leadership that's telling people, I don't believe that we can score in this situation just by being better. We just have to trick somebody. That's what that is.
Yeah.
And it's wrong. And the players have tuned it out, and they'll continue tuning it out. And rightfully so. So that's it.
Pretty much, man.
Yeah, the Patriots now have Bailey Zappi.
Zappi. Z-A-P-P-E.
From Houston Baptist.
Yeah, but let me tell you something. It could have been anyone at quarterback for the Falcons if all he had to do was hand off to the Ball State guy and he'd just run through us for 10, 12, 15 yards at a bite.
It's embarrassing.
Oh, God, yeah.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been anybody.
Yeah,
so, this is...
passes that Mariota finally threw, the people were like so wide open.
There was no energy from the defensive line, and I don't care if they're second stringers. This is their opportunity to play. There was no enthusiasm whatsoever.
Yeah.
None. So that tells me something, too. Either they're not good enough to be in the league and they shouldn't be here, and we should have done something in free agency to strengthen the depth of our interior line defensively, or it means that they're not getting the message. They'd rather collect a paycheck not playing.
The only good thing about that defense today that I can say was Grant Delpit finally played like an NFL football player. I mean, outside of that, what else was there really?
Yeah, Winfrey had a couple of nice plays here and there. There was a couple plays here and there, but it just...
Yeah, I mean, he can have a couple of nice plays, and then we want to take him out.
Yeah,
well, I mean, to me... It all starts at the top and it rots from there. And I believe we have talent on the team. I think the drafting has hurt us. I don't know what the point is in bringing Amari Cooper into a situation where he has no help. I don't understand the point of that. I just don't get it. And I don't understand if you're not trying to build a whole roster and you're just going to pick and choose, and every single year, our defensive line gets injured. You don't have anybody to back them up. Every year it's happened. Every year, the same thing happens with offensive linemen. And you don't believe in drafting any kind of veteran help of people who might have a clue as to what they're doing. And with wide receivers, it's the same way. And, for Derek, Drake London didn't look like for shit. Okay?
No. But to your point here real quick, with Amari Cooper in our wide receiver position, it was clear today that if Amari Cooper can't get any production, the entire pass game shuts down because he's the only one. And AJ Terrell, I mean, listen, great corner, elite corner in the NFL, did a great job. But from the offensive side of things, against the Steelers and against the Jets, we were able to move the ball because Cooper was being efficient. He was able to get open. Without that, we're nothing, and it's sad. And
But we knew it. Any logical person would looked at the roster and known that before the season began. And it was a constant conversation about why aren't we going after any free agents for wide receiver? Why did we pass them up on the draft? And what did we get instead? And I don't see any difference makers. I mean, I'm sorry. Perrion Winfrey made one play, and I didn't see him the rest of the game. And
Emerson's been the best one. I mean, as much shit as we talked on him, he's been the only guy who's been solid.
Are you trying to eat your way out of frustration, Derek?
I'm sorry. I just got home from downtown Columbus. I accidentally ran through a red light. It's been a bad day.
It's a trigger. The Cleveland Browns are a trigger. Look at how fat all of us are. It's a trigger.
Speak for yourself. I lost 15 pounds in a month and a half.
Good for you. Good for you.
Call it retained earnings. No, retained earnings.
Yeah, right. And again, no, Winfrey is not a hell of a player. He's a head case. And you gotta be able to you got to be able to comport yourself before you can hit a football field, and you got to be a thinking player. There's more to the game than just being physically strong. There's a thought process and a technique and a finesse that makes players effective, and you can see that the backup defensive linemen don't have any of that. And the only thing that there was the one stunt in which Jordan Elliott got a clean sack on Mariota, but the rest of the time Mariota was easily escaping, but again, the play that was wide open, it was no different than the Joe Flacco play. Same thing.
Hey, I don't know if you guys talked about this or not, but at the end of the game, why didn't Jacoby just dump it down to Dearness Johnson? Still had a timeout.
Still had a timeout and a chance to kick the long field goal.
Yeah.
But I mean, once it got to 3rd and 23, I mean, the problem was at 3rd and 23, instead of Jacoby throwing the ball down the field to Bell, he would have had to have thrown like an 11-yard pass, which, if it were to Harrison Bryant, which would be 9 yards because he's 2 yards off of everything. I'm going to start calling him -2. His number on his uniform should say -2. Harrison Bryant can't run a pattern to save his fucking soul. He never gets to the right spot. He's a killer. Guy's an absolute killer. He shouldn't even be on the team.
Are we going to run a jet sweep with him too, or what?
Yeah, I'm sure that's probably in the works.
Well,
and
I know you'll get to this tomorrow, but here's the telltale stat: Jacoby Brissett threw the ball 35 times.
Ugh.
we can't have that happen in an offense like
we'll never win with that happening.
It's not going to. I mean, he was 21 of 35, but still, the fact that he threw the ball 35 times, and he was at the time top 7 and he was pretty high up in the quarterback ratings or whatever. I mean, he didn't turn the ball over except for it's like the one at the end again, but still.
If you take away the last plays of the game, he's not throwing an interception.
No, and that's what you want out of a guy in this offense. But like
realistically,
said,
what we needed in that
if
situation,
you don't have a weapon like Cooper, everybody else is mitigated.
He should have checked down, done something shorter, and tried to run the field goal unit out. I mean, what else could you do? He's not going to get 3rd and 23. It's not going to happen. It didn't happen the one time we lost before either, when he tried to fit one in.
Yeah.
It's just not what he does. He's not that kind of a downfield thrower. And the offense doesn't have receivers who can run good enough patterns to get open. Again, this whole people want to continue talking in the chat room about Baker Mayfield. It's old and it's over. That's right. I mean, it means nothing at all.
Hey, they
It's
got
just
a
like
pick six today, Carolina. That's the only way they can score.
Yeah.
is
The
by
Ravens and
getting-
the Steelers
Yeah.
mean nothing to me. None of that. The Bengals mean nothing to me.
Oh,
mean, the only-
Vienna, it means nothing to me.
Yeah. Oh, Vienna. Yeah.
It was nice to see Pickett throw a pick on his first pass in the NFL. That was nice.
Yeah. Who sang it, Bronk?
Mid-year from Ultravox. He's Scottish. Of course I
Ultravox. Very
know all
good.
this shit.
You're right on. Spot on. One of the earliest videos on MTV.
It means nothing to me.
He likes the song, folks.
Dancing with tears in your eyes.
Okay. Make it stop. Make it stop. You know, and again, this is the situation that we put our quarterback in, and that's not where he shines. And, you know, here's what I believe. The second that you turn down the 63-yard field goal attempt, a chance to tie the game, and you say, I'm going to let the defense kind of do their thing.
Yeah, punting there. Yeah.
But what would have happened, you know, if your defense stopped them anyway? You still would have gotten the ball back.
Correct.
They had good field position, yes. But the fact of the matter is, this guy won't kick a field goal to save his fucking soul. They draft a kicker 4th round, and he's supposed to be the greatest since sliced bread. And you can't even get him out on the fucking field. I mean, what they write about his leg, and he's got this booming leg and this and that, and you have a chance to tie the fucking game, but you don't. You don't pull the trigger. Instead, I'm going to defer to the defense, Joe.
Yeah, I was.
It's weakness.
That's what it showed me on that first drive. I mean, yes, it is the first drive, but to me, it said, "Hey, Kevin Stefanski to Joe Woods, I don't trust you, so I'm going to do my best," which was not enough at all. And you know what the most disappointing thing is? And this will probably be my last comment because I know you probably want to wrap up. It's the fact that we lose every game the same fucking way. We win every game the same way, and we lose every game the same way.
Every one of these games is going to be close. And there's, it's like I said at the beginning of the show. Everyone says, typical Browns, same old Browns. And the thing is, the Browns, the reason they lose in such sad ways is that the games are always close. They're never definitive. The wins are never definitive wins, and the losses are not definitive losses. And we flutter around a 500 record, and people say, well, there's always hope that we can turn it around. But there is no hope. No. Because the message from above is that obviously this is good enough, and we're willing to live with it.
And look at your schedule coming up. You decided to fuck around. It's like that. This is going to make me sound very stupid, but there's a video going around the internet, right? Old guy's got a chart. It says the more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out. He does a little, math thing, whatever. Anyway. That's what the Browns are doing right now. They're fucking around against these teams that they have no business losing to, and they're going to find out once they start playing the Bills, the Bucks, the Ravens at this point. Fuck, Lamar Jackson's going to rip us to shreds. I mean, it's just you blew these fucking games. You blew the games that you had to come out and find a way to win, and you blew them after being in. If we would have lost today by 10 points, I would have been like, whatever. But the fact that you should have won this game, you should have won the Jets game. You can't fucking end a game to save your life.
Should have a 2-game lead in the division. Should have a 2-game lead, Derek.
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
All right.
I hate this team so much. I really do.
With that, it's done for me. And I got to come back and do another show tomorrow. And I got no ammunition because it's going to be the same message over and over again until you get a fresh attitude into this thing. The same mistakes are going to be made. And the people who are put in charge, whether it's Kevin Stefanski and Joe Woods, they can't get their guys lined up properly. The fact is, it's never going to change as long as these people are here.
And I get to go to work tomorrow and stare at fucking Browns jerseys all day. Yay me. I'm going to fucking jump off a bridge.
Yeah, bring some fucking spray paint. You can spray paint on them. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Thanks, Bronk. Thanks, Jim. Hammer Time. Thanks, Derek. Thanks to everybody who supports the program. I appreciate it. And if my Bula Harry High School, rile them up and keep them positive attitude, is in stark comparison to what you hear today. It is because the world has become a very negative place, and there isn't, and you can't, if you can tell me that you're happy going into work, that it's meaningful to you, that you have, that it is something that burns inside of you that you want to accomplish, I say that's great. But I would say that 90% of the people are just trying to hold on to what fucking jobs they have, and companies are trying to figure out how they can hire fewer people. That's what I can tell you. And the message of enthusiasm and selling people on things is predicated on there has to be a chance that those things will happen. I can't sell something if there's no chance that it's going to happen. And that's where we run into a problem. And I may be old in a changing world, but there could be no enthusiasm if there's no belief that it's going anywhere, and if in fact it's not going anywhere, there's nothing to sell.
I tell
There's
you what,
nothing but Jimmy Haslam.
just a very quick comment. They're showing on Red Zone the Jets comeback win drive. That's the drive of the year. Maybe we should just hire Robert Saleh. Maybe he could inspire us to play better.
He's an inspiring coach.
Yeah, exactly.
And again,
we're the only team overachieving.
Well, the bottom line is, until this is a boys' game, baseball is a boys' game. That's why they refer to the boys of summer, because it's grown men playing a boys' game, and it has to be fun. It has to be enthusiastic. It has to be a feeling of camaraderie, and believe me, it never changes. I mean, it is all about desire. And what is management for? Management is there to help players find that inspiration. If you're incapable of doing it, you're going to get nothing out of anybody. So be that as it may. Our star players, high drafted players, are playing beneath their capacity. And we don't even bring lower level players in who rise to the occasion. Guy comes out of Ball State, never played in a fucking game before, and he comes in and he runs down the field for 54 yards, nothing but getting the ball handed off to him. And he's completely winded because he's really not in game shape. And he still did that to lead them to an important touchdown drive. That's a guy who wants to play. Yeah. That's a guy who would have given his left leg to play, and he got that opportunity, and that effort and the offensive line's effort turned the game around for Atlanta. So, as long as there's no enthusiasm from the people at the top or the people who are on the field, you're not going to get a vitriolic reaction from me. I'm just going to sit here and tell you that that's the way it will go week after week, year after year. So, and the fact that a guy like Saleh can do what he's doing in New York just cements the fact that I can't say that forever with the ownership that he has in the Jets. I don't know how long can continue creating an enthusiastic environment when you're working for bozos. But the fact of the matter is that, you've already seen what can happen. It's like the people in Jacksonville saying, we got Urban Meyer, God almighty, we're finally moving in the right direction. And then it was like, oh my God, it can't get worse than this. It can always get worse. The fact is, Urban Meyer flushed that thing down the toilet. Yeah. And now Doug Peterson has a reclamation project on his hands. And he's got to get players up to come out in the field and do their best. After what Urban Meyer, he raped the organization.
Oh, God. He was worse than Freddie Kitchens, Urban Meyer.
Just terrible. I mean, bad attitude, you name it. He was bad news. So, again, that's what it all comes down to, and enthusiasm and passion. And if you can't bring passion out of people, if the people don't have the ability to have passion for their work, I don't want them. I want hungry people. I don't need superstars. I need hungry people who are willing to put out and show passion for what they do. That's what I need.
I'm hungry right now.
Defense has done for how many years?
Huh?
I said that's what the Steelers defense has done for how many years with West Allen?
You find guys who are hungry. That's
right. I think I want a frozen pizza right now, man. I am starving.
Go for it. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning into the postgame show. It's always a pleasure. I'll see you again tomorrow on regular Moohead Radio, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.
Sorry, we hijacked the show there, or I hijacked it there for a while, but yeah.
Nice therapy there. Honestly, I'm like, there's a bottle of bourbon over there. I'm like, yeah, I got to have some of this before
I think Moo is getting annoyed with me when I start talking about the Grove City blockade and the referees and all that. He actually watches his attendance numbers. I thought like it was just like us three guys chatting about the game. I didn't realize that other people were actually like watching this.
People watching.
Yeah.
And then they have other people that watch afterwards. So.
Wow. Yeah. That's sad.
But yeah, it was a tough day today. But I had my assigner gave me the double header college matches yesterday. I had a D3 match at Muskingum and a D2 match here in Columbus at Ohio Dominican. So I got home and was like exhausted. So yeah. So Jacoby Brissett was, when I say 21-5.
I love Jacoby. I think
he's fine. Marcus Mariota was 7 of 19 for 139 yards.
Yep.
Got sacked once. So did Jacoby. Of course, it was the wrong damn time of the game.
Yep.
Marcus Mariota's rating was 41.4. And we were able to lose. How the hell did that happen?
I don't know. I think it was, it's down to our management.
Because
awful.
Chubb and Hunt did not do anything to lose that game.
No. I mean, we had that turnover with Njoku that got punished. And then the final interception, which was inevitable when we tried chasing a win that we can't chase down. So, anyway.
Jacob Phillips and JOK led the team with 7 tackles each. John Johnson had 5. Delpit had 4. And 2 pass breakups.
There really wasn't that many snaps that Atlanta had. We had to have the time of possession on this by about 38 to.
I haven't. Let me see.
We had. I'm guessing 38, 32, or 39, 31, or 21, or something like that. Something crazy.
I'm on the ESPN thing, so I don't see it, but I'm sure it was. I mean, through the first like half, it was pretty much even, right?
Yep.
I mean, really, it was like. It seemed like it was extraordinarily even overall. It just team stats. Here we go.
I'm just glad it was a quick defeat. Like it ended before quarter to 4 or quarter to 9. It didn't drag out for 3.5 hours and then we lost the game.
Yeah, I mean,
we could have put it into overtime and then lost it that way.
Yeah, because they ran the ball so much. Let's see. Browns had 403 yards rushing, or total yards. Falcons had 333.
Yep.
71 to 55 plays. Yeah. Yeah, it still doesn't even say it. Oh, there it is. 35 to 24.
Okay.
35-44 to 24-16.
I thought it was bigger than that, but.
Well, that third quarter, the Falcons were dog shit. They couldn't move the ball at all. Like the Browns had like 100 and something yards, 170 yards or something, whatever, and the Falcons had nothing.
Yeah,
hardly anything. So that was the third quarter was a big one, and we got 3 points out of it. Whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So, Oh well.
I have no idea what Moohead's going to talk about tomorrow. He's got nothing to talk about. There's
I
nothing
gotta
to
talk about the Guardians because it's something that's actually good.
Guardians.
I think that's where to go. I'll tell you, going up there and seeing that in person when I was in
Chicago.
it was infectious. That
Wow.
team just freaking loves each other. It reminded you of that 95 team, but without all the 300 hitters, you know?
Yeah.
You didn't have the guy like the Tommy who could hit it over the wall at any given time. It was, and I think part of it's a Tito kind of team. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's him.
It's he knows how to coach small ball, and he can do it the other way too. But it really is a Tito kind of team, and it was just so much fun. And I thought, like I said, that other one, I thought about going out to the bar to watch the Browns game, and I thought, I'm in town, I can go watch the Guardians play. I mean, how often do I get to do that? Because I'm not there. So
Are there people still watching this?
I don't think so. I think it's over.
Yeah.
I think it's let's say live. Maybe we should go away.
Yeah.
All right. Hey. Talk to you later. Have a nice evening. Have that pizza.
See you later, man.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.